All right, Kristen Browde, you are joining us today. This is a big day for you and a big day for LGBTQ plus politics. You are now the new leader of the Democrat LGBTQ plus Florida caucus. Congratulations. It's the state is on fire. What are you doing? What is day one, day two for you?
Well, day one and day two are, and day three and day four and day 100 are reaching out to the community, because what we know is that our caucus right now doesn't look like queer Florida. It's way too white. It's way too older. We have to reach out to every part of our community, and our community is vibrant. If you talk to the National Democratic Party, you will find that LGBTQ plus voters are the single most powerful, most reliable bloc of Democrats throughout the nation. And in Florida, we've lagged. Why is that? Well, because maybe our caucus needs to do better. Maybe Democrats in Florida need to do better. And my job is to encourage others to do their best to get out there and talk to the people who are in our community and let them know. I'm sure they know it on one level, but to let them know how valuable their votes are, how valuable their participation is, and how they can make a difference to take back Florida.
What does take back Florida this cycle mean? For some, and this is sort of just in the people who whisper in my ear and talk, it's clawing back the Republicans from supermajority in the legislature, so we at least get a seat in each of the house's decision-making process. I mean, after the state of polls right now shows Florida, the Democrats shouldn't spend a dime on Senate and presidential elections. Then it should be focused on winning back school board seats, council seats, and state legislative seats. What do you say to those limited but possibly more achievable goals?
Well, Take Back Florida does at the first level, mean taking back the power in the legislature that comes by breaking those supermajorities. And we have great candidates, including members of our community. My predecessor as president of the LGBTQ caucus is Nathan Broomer, running for State House in District 61. Joe Saunders down here in South Florida in Miami Beach, running for District 106. There are other candidates from the most southern part of Key West all the way up to Gainesville, talking about and doing the things that we need, which is running and getting elected. And it isn't just the state legislature. It is those school board races. School board races make a huge difference. Where does government touch you? Well, what they do in Washington matters, no question about it. But what really touches you is what happens in your town, your commission, your school board. Those are the people whose decisions make a difference in your life and in your children's life. And the number one thing from my perspective is people ask all the time, well, what are the LGBTQ plus issues? Well, that's really simple. Any issue that affects any aspect of your life is an LGBTQ plus issue. The economy is an LGBTQ plus issue. The environment is an LGBTQ plus issue. And of course, equality is a huge LGBTQ plus issue. And it's the one that gets the most attention. But all of those are important because we're no different than anybody else. The difference between an LGBTQ plus citizen of Florida and any other citizen of Florida is negligible. We all want the same things. We want good jobs, safe streets, good schools, a good environment, and a great place to live. Now, I don't care whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. You disagree with that? Well, okay. I don't think you do. And that's the way I've approached it. That's how I approached it when I was talking to legislators in Tallahassee this past year. That's how I want to approach it going forward. And we're going to do this. And let me just push back a little bit on the don't worry about the Senate, don't worry about the White House. Worry about both of those. We need to vote all the way down the ticket. And don't forget, the vital constitutional amendments and citizen initiatives that we have on the ballot in November that affect our community like every community. Abortion access is vital. Abortion is health care. We need to put that into the Constitution. The marijuana initiative, people have differing opinions on, but it's something that affects all of our lives, and we ought to be out there voting. You need to vote all the way up and down, including judges, where judges are on the ballot, because they make a difference in your life. Those are all LGBTQ plus issues, and we are all about educating voters and getting them to the polls to vote for our candidates to make a difference. That's taking back Florida.
So, you've talked about all these issues. Certainly the amendment for reproductive freedom. And don't get me wrong, I love my weed, but certainly reproductive freedom is at the top of the list, is the thing that we have got to get past. And it's certainly not easy at a 60% threshold, but recreational cleared that threshold about 5 years ago. So it could happen, absolutely. But here's what concerns me. Like when Donald Trump is in court and he sneezes and the judge says objection, or the prosecution says objection, he fundraises off of that. He fundraises off every little thing, and he's making millions, possibly $1 billion, because we've still got 4 more months to go.
Here's the thing. No amount of money can cover up the fact that this is a corrupt man, that this is a man who has committed crimes. He is a convicted felon. He is somebody who has been adjudicated to have sexually assaulted women. He is a person who boasts about grabbing women. He is a man who is manifestly unfit as a president. He showed that to us. What did he do in his 4 years? Well, White House insiders will tell you that he showed up for work about an hour a day, and he went and he played golf a lot, and that Melania wasn't even in the White House. She was off in Maryland living with her mom. Now,
do you blame her?
No, I don't blame her. I mean, look, she's got a cushy job. She's getting paid. I'd stay as far away as I could while collecting that money. But look, I've known Donald Trump for decades. As a matter of fact, if you go to the Arts and Entertainment Network archives and you find on YouTube, and it's there, the original Arts and Entertainment Network biography series with Peter Graves of Donald Trump, and you go all the way down to the credits, you'll find that I wrote it. And the reason I wrote it is that I covered Donald Trump back when I was a reporter back in New York. I covered him when he said that a man who was a convicted rapist, a multimillionaire convicted rapist, should be allowed to buy his way out of jail because he could just pay a fine instead of going to jail, even though he had brutally raped a woman. Why did he do that? Because Donald Trump was going to make money on the deal. That's what he's about, making money on the deal. He was a terrible president. Look what he did with COVID. Look what he did with our economy. Look what he did with the respect America has in the world. There are 2 people who think he's a wonderful president, Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. Is that what we want for a leader? Hell no. And I don't care how much money he raises. I don't care what he does. He can do all the gymnastics he wants. He can't cover for the fact that he's incompetent, that he's all bluster, and that people cannot believe that he's a good, decent person who could be a positive leader for this country.
Well, it can be argued that his base constituency is not interested in any of those things, a good or decent leader. But here's the thing, and I agree with you on so many, if not all of the points you just made, but I disagree where there is a certain amount of money that is needed. And I'm not seeing, and believe me, I've got to be on at least 100 mailing lists across various things. But when abortion cleared the ballot, I got no fundraising calls, no one emailing me to donate $25 to help campaign. I haven't gotten any emails on registering people to vote. I just feel like, and this is from my perspective, but again, I feel like I see a little bit broader picture. I don't see any action.
Well, one of the things that is my job is to make sure you do see that action. And if you looked at our social media in the past 48 hours, you'll see that the LGBTQ plus caucus is alive in Florida and well in Florida. And we are out there and we are just getting warmed up. Nathan's focus was more internal, and he did a great job of internal organizing and taking us from a position where we had a tough loss in 2 years ago, and he rebuilt it. He rebuilt us during that. My job is to take what he's built and raise it even higher. And that's what we've started doing already. That's what we're going to continue to do. You're going to see us all over the place. We are going to go from Key West all the way up to Pensacola and every stop in between. 67 counties in Florida, 67 counties in which we have to be active, getting people into the caucus, into the voting booth, and that's our job, and we're going to do it.
In this particular matchup or rematch in this year, which is more effective? Driving people to the polls? I mean, like not physically driving, but like driving voters to the polls to get them to vote for Democrats, or to say Donald Trump is so terrible and just try and suppress their vote from coming out. The right-leaning swing voters, perhaps, is who I'm talking about.
I think we have to do both. I mean, you saw today, as we're recording this, that some of the right-wing Republicans are furious with Donald Trump because he's flip-flopping on abortion. He's saying, well, you know, maybe abortion's okay because he thinks he's going to siphon off Democrats. But what he's doing is alienating Republicans, and that's fine. You know, if they want to go vote for a third-party candidate, that's great. Because Donald Trump isn't anti-abortion. Donald Trump is a man of no fixed principle. Whoever pays him the most is what's going to get him to go on their side. Look at the TikTok ban. He was the original proponent of the TikTok ban. Then it turned out that one of his biggest contributors is one of the major investors in TikTok. And all of a sudden, flip-flop, he's doing it on abortion. So fine, Republicans don't vote. But it is vital for a different reason that Democrats do vote, that swing voters do vote, because it isn't just the White House. It isn't just the United States Senate. It's those local races we were just talking about. Each and every one of those is vital. Your school boards make a huge difference. Your town commission makes a huge difference. Make sure your judges are the right people, good lawyers who will follow the law rather than the political winds blowing whichever way they think they should blow. Those races are vital. So as much as we want Republicans to, actually have a conscience, which I hope they will, and discover that Donald Trump really isn't one of them, we need Democrats to remember who their friends are, who they can rely on, and get to the polls and vote. And that means driving them to vote, including driving them in a car.
Yep. Well, we're in year 10 of hardcore Donald Trump. I mean, he was terrible to Obama, but it's year 10 that we're in a real hardcore rednecks and red hats.
Yep.
Do you really think there's any chance that I just feel that his 33% base is more loyal than the 30 or 33% base that Democrats have. And I don't care if it's for the White House, Senate, anywhere.
Look, we're Democrats. We can disagree with each other, and we do. It's the beauty of the Democratic Party that you can be pro-Palestine, you can be pro-Israel, you can be strongly for marijuana, you can be strongly against marijuana. We don't demand that people go in lockstep. What we want is people with a conscience, people who want the best for this nation and are willing to understand what the other guy is saying, to understand what a woman feels when her health care is threatened, and to realize that their responsibility is bigger than their personal financial gain in the moment, that they're not looters. And we have a segment of our community that frankly troubles me the most. And that is the predominantly older, white, gay men who are wealthy and think Donald Trump is just fine. And why do they do that? Because they think, oh, our money insulates us from the problems that we see and we acknowledge he's creating for the rest of the community. But we don't care about that. Our economic situation is what we care about, and that's all we're voting on. Well, those folks are the ones I want to reach out to. Those and the ones who actually are religious. Let me tell you about a conversation I had in Tallahassee. We all remember that Representative Barnaby, Webster Barnaby, a couple of years back, made that horrific speech in a hearing about trans folks and said, called them demons and imps. You know, I rebuke you in the name of, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Called them satanic. Well, I was in Tallahassee this past session and walking through a meeting with legislators, and I happened to be walking by his office, and he pops out, and I go, Webster Barnaby, just the man I wanted to meet. And he turns around and he sees this older white woman who obviously is excited to see him and couldn't have been happier to have a conversation. I said to him, Webster, I am so happy to meet you, but I've got to ask you a question. It's fine. I'm a 73-year-old woman. I have raised 2 children. I've never had so much as a parking ticket in Florida. I run a small business. I have voted every time. I pay my taxes on time. I want to know why you're trying to make my life hell. He's like, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm transgender. And he goes, well, I heard your speech and I called him out on it. He said, well, I wasn't talking about you. I was speaking at Cleveland. I'm like, Webster, no, that meeting started probably 2 hours of conversations over a couple of days. And when the worst of the bills this past session, the worst of the anti-trans bills came up for a vote, Webster Barnaby, I couldn't get him to vote against it, but he didn't vote for it either. He didn't vote for it, and he took 12 Republicans with him. They didn't vote for it either. Those are the tough conversations we have to have. We have to talk to people who don't necessarily agree with us on any issue. We have to hear what they have to say, and we have to show them how what they're talking about isn't a reality in our community, that the fear-mongering has to stop, and that we are like they are. We are people who want a great state, a great nation in which we can all thrive on every single level. There's room in this country, in this state, for all of us. And the sooner they understand it, the sooner we make them understand it, the better off we'll all be.
And I want to jump into the inter-acronym issues in just a minute. But before I move on, I look behind you over your right shoulder and I see a Biden-Harris sign.
Yes.
Is it safe to extrapolate from that you are not part of the Replace Biden campaign?
Joe Biden has been a terrific president for 3.5 years. Look at the recovery he engineered. Look at the tremendous progress, low unemployment. Today, 200,000 more jobs created in our economy. Look at the progress that has been made on so many levels. Are there still problems? You betcha. But I would rather have a man of good heart, even if he's an older man of good heart. Donald Trump's 3 years younger. Donald Trump doesn't do the work, doesn't read the material, wouldn't know what the best solution is if somebody told him, unless it came with a check. Joe Biden had a bad 90 minutes. No question about it. No question about it. But he's had 3.5 years of doing the right thing. And as long as he is in it, as long as he is saying, I can do the job, and he has a great vice president, I have not the slightest qualm about supporting him fully, both vocally and with as many dollars as I can send him. Because you're right, money matters. But Joe Biden has done great things for this country, helped us recover from the worst economic slump since the 1930s, a slump created by Donald Trump. He recovered from that. He brought our economy back. He brought our nation back. And to me, that deserves full support every day of every week.
Well, and if I can just expand a little bit on that, he also was part of the recovery of the previous most recent economic nosedive, and that was the recession from 08 to 11. And so it seems like, and then there was the George W. Bush, or not George W., the original George Bush. Clinton came in and had to clean up that economic mess. It seems like the country forgets how bad things get, put Democrats in charge to fix it up, dust it off the window ledge a little bit, and then move on.
It is an irony that I cannot get past, that in polling, people say, oh, we trust Republicans with the economy. Republicans have run the economy into the ditch. The only time we've actually paid down our national deficit was under Bill Clinton. We paid down. We were in surplus. And what happened? Bush came in, and he was the tax and spender, and created a program that helped some people, Medicare D, and basically sent us back into financial deficits from which we have not recovered. We've got to address that. We've got to address Social Security, not, by the way, like Rick Scott says, by sunsetting it, not by taking it away from people, but by paying for it properly. One of my jobs, one of my volunteer jobs for the past 17 years, I'm a trustee of a union pension fund, of a $3 billion union pension fund. I sit on the investment and administrative committees. I know what it takes to deliver pensions, and Social Security is a pension. We're not doing it right at the national level. And Donald Trump and Rick Scott's way of fixing Social Security is to destroy it. No, we just have to pay for it properly. We have to fund it properly. Social Security is something you and I and every American has paid into every day of their working lives. You deserve your money back at the end of it. And if it's administered properly, it'll be there. Unfortunately, it's not being run that way. And Donald Trump and Rick Scott want to destroy it. Joe Biden wants to protect it. DMP, Debbie Mukersel-Powell, wants to protect it. Those are people who deserve support. If you're voting for a Republican on the economy, what the hell are you thinking?
And you talk about being, the pension manager, and certainly I know you've got a great background, and we're going to get into that, I promise, too, here in a minute. But is the damage already done? Not necessarily for Social Security, but it seems like Supreme Court rulings this year, and I think there was this session, and I think there was one last session, that basically all but guts regulatory reform, that guts SEC, Security and Exchange Commission power. And then, of course, whenever Republicans can, they slash oversight agencies to begin with, and the Supreme Court is okay with it. How can I feel good that I'm going to have something in 10 years when I want to retire?
Well, the Supreme Court is a problem of its own. The Republicans played hardball under Mitch McConnell and stole a seat, and Donald Trump put horrendous nominees on the court. The surprising thing is that Amy Coney Barrett hasn't turned out to be quite as bad as we feared, although she's been on the wrong side on a couple of issues.
Yeah.
And big ones. The court is, if you have no other reason than to vote for Joe Biden and to vote against Donald Trump, it is the US Supreme Court. Alito and Thomas will likely not make it through the next presidency. They will be replaced. Let's get rid of them and let's find another Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Oh,
let's find another Sonia Sotomayor. Let's find another Ginsburg.
I hate to burst that bubble. There is no other Ruth Bader Ginsburg out there, and there will never be.
I disagree with you. There are, and as a lawyer, I have been before judges who would make wonderful justices who actually care about justice on every level. There are plenty of them, and this is one. I mean, this is, you want to get wonky, I can get super wonky on you.
Bring it on.
In law.
Bring it on.
As a lawyer and as a Democrat, the guy who screwed this up is a Democratic icon by the name of Harry Reid, who was Senate Majority Leader before Schumer, and who, in a desperate time to get judges through when the Republicans were blocking them, said, let's not use a supermajority for justices. Let's make it 50%. That was the wrong thing to do. Not just in hindsight, it was wrong when he did it. And now what we have is, you get a 1-vote majority, you can put justices on the court. It used to be you needed 2/3. And justices ought to be confirmed by 2/3, because they shouldn't be the lapdogs of whatever power put them there, whatever party put them there. They should be actual, what Roberts said he was going to be, umpires, calling balls and strikes. Sadly, that has not been the case for the past couple of years. And that's got to change, whether by voting out the people who put them there, making sure there are no Republicans to put more judges on the court, or by expanding the court to put on judges who are consensus candidates, who are going to do that and be advocates for justice, not advocates for one political theory or another.
So I think it's pretty safe to say that in the very, very long foreseeable future, we're never going to have either party get 60 votes. Obama had it for about a year and change, I think. And Democrat or Republicans haven't come close. I think they got to 55 at one point. It doesn't seem like we're going to ever get those types of swings again. So given your comments about appointing justices, would you want to keep the filibuster the same as it is?
That's a tougher question. And I've been
that's my job. That's my job, doctor.
I know. And I respect that. I've been back and forth on the filibuster, but I'll say this. Even if you don't get 60 votes, what we got back then was consensus candidates. And consensus is not impossible. I reached consensus with Webster Barnaby on what's good for Florida. And if a trans woman can reach out and talk to somebody who exhibited every aspect of transphobia only a year earlier, and we can reach consensus on what's good for Florida, well, that's possible in the United States Senate too. It's possible in the nation too. What it takes is backing away from this red versus blue, at each other's throats. Now, it's easy for me to sit here and say, well, that's coming from the other side, from those guys in their pickup trucks with their shotguns. But that's not it. That's way too simplistic an answer. They feel threatened by us. We feel threatened by them. Well, why is that? Well, because there are people whose business it is to make them afraid of us. And when they get to know us, it's so much harder to hate people who share things with you, who you know. And when they hear that, the vast majority of us are doctors, lawyers, bus drivers, airplane pilots, your pharmacist, the guy who delivers your mail, the woman who is the nurse at the hospital, or is the doctor who gives you treatment. They're like, oh, wait, they're trans or they're gay? It doesn't matter. It makes no difference to how good a person you are, how great a citizen of the state you are, or of the nation you are, whether you are lesbian, gay, bi, trans. That is not a factor. You're either a good person or you're not. You either care about your community or you don't. You're either in it to make this the best place for the most possible people, or you're not. And we want to reach those who really do care to make their lives and their communities the best possible. And if we can reach them, if we can talk to them and have these conversations, they're going to vote with us. They're going to be with us, and we're going to be with them. And we're going to reach that consensus, and we're going to find a path forward for all of America, no matter who they love, no matter where they live, no matter what they think is the best thing right now. Let's have the conversations. Let's talk this through and figure out the best path forward and do it.
The thing is that there are a lot in our own community that want to jettison the T. They want to support LGBTQ.
Not a lot. Not a lot. There are some.
But they're vocal. I mean,
they are.
You've got people like, former ally Martina Navratilova, and but then you've got, I hear other people just out when I'm out at the bars say the same thing. And I'll give you my view, and then I want yours. But it's like, our enemies are patient. They will let us destroy one of the acronyms ourselves. But if we think they're not going to then come for the Q or the B, and work their way up, then I think those people are damn fools. What do you
You're
think?
exactly right. You're exactly right. And and then the moment you go after them, they're like, "Oh, this is cancel culture." Well, turf demort, Ms. Rowling, is what she is, and that's fine. I wonder why she is what she is, but I find look at Elon Musk. Here's the perfect example. The perfect example. You know why Elon Musk is so anti-trans? Turns out one of his kids is trans. And
doesn't want a damn thing to do with it.
yeah, exactly. And more often than not, it's either a kid, a spouse, a relative who has come out and has been rejected. And I don't know why that is. You know, they take it personally, like it's something they did. Oh, I must be a bad parent because my kid is trans. No, what kind of a parent you are has nothing to do with it. What kind of a person you are. When somebody comes out and tells you who they are and tells you how they want to live their life, how they want to express themselves, what do you care? What do you care? How does that make a difference to you? Oh, my neighbors are going to think I'm a terrible person because my kid's trans. No. What they'll think you're a terrible person for is for rejecting your child, no matter who they love, no matter how they choose to express their gender. And those who are like, oh, jettison this, jettison that, you're exactly right. First, they're going to come for this group, then they're going to come for that group. We've seen it over and over again. They get an inch, they take a yard. And there was a Republican fundraiser back a few years who said, I don't want to shrink federal government. I want to reduce it in size so small that I can drown it in the bathtub. Well, that's what they want to do with our community too. And it is what they want to do with the federal government because they think, oh, we can get our little fiefdoms here and there. What they are sowing, what they are offering is the destruction of the United States as a power in the world, a destruction of what has made this country great, which is e pluribus unum, out of many, one. And, Andrew Cuomo, for all his faults, used to preach that nonstop. And if he could have just kept his zipper zipped, he would have made a great president. But
he would have, yeah. But you know what, though? But again, that's a contrast to the Democrats saw someone who was acting, and I don't want to downplay it, but we'll just say a cad, to borderline sexual predator. And we got rid of him. He was in a deep blue state. He could have stayed and sat there if he wanted to, but the Democrats said no. Whereas the Republicans rioted and stormed the Capitol.
Al Franken, another great example. We don't put up with the hypocrisy. We don't. They revel in it. I mean, can you imagine if Donald Trump were a Democrat? He'd have been out of here so fast. The Access Hollywood tape would have done it if nothing else did.
Yeah.
That's just, you can't do that. And how it is that Republicans go, oh, his locker room does is fine. How they can put up with him being found in court to have sexually attacked a woman, not just one woman, but multiple women, and then lied about it. And they're like, yeah, okay, fine. $500 million in fines, being banned from doing business in the state of New York because he's a fraudster, because he's a convicted fraudster. And they're like, yeah, so what? It's politics. It's not politics. It's who the man is. He wouldn't last an hour in the Democratic Party, which is probably why he switched from being a Democrat to being a Republican.
Hypocrisy. It's an American value we export with a flair. Kristen, we're about out of time for our article or for our interview today. Here's the thing. I'm not done. I'm going to see you, I'm sure, a lot over the next 4 months. Because certainly we're going to want to bring out the vote in Broward and Palm Beach and Miami. So I will see you soon. Thank you so much for the time today. Congratulations and good luck, because you're going to need both.
We got work to do, and we urge everybody who's watching, and I watch. As a matter of fact, you have some tremendous people working with you. And we're very grateful for the work that you're doing. But the Dolphin Dems in Broward County, the Flamingos in Miami, Miami-Dade, we have 21 chapters across this state now. We're going to aim for a chapter in every county. We're at LGBTQdems.org. And if you are queer or if you're an ally, join us. We will be there and we will be working to make your life better.
Kristen Browde, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Take care.